March the 1st. So 25 on page 310, we are given a function, which is the square root of x minus 2 plus the square root of x plus 3. Am I correct? Yes. I extended the your work on test 1 because I had a glitch in one of the settings. So I extended it so you can do it as many times as you want. Yes.
I was there today, but I couldn't do it. It said it's already passed. I cannot go on the last February test
Where did you go?
to the canvas. In the canvas, the first one that was due before.
So you went to my math lab?
Yes. So I wanted to click on the test. He said I cannot access it since it's due.
Did anyone else have that problem?
What's the question?
So were you able to access the test?
Yeah, I've accessed it.
Okay, something is wrong with your system. We'll talk about it at the end of the class. Because nobody has ever told me that yet. Okay, so here we're asked in this question, it says find the domain of the function. So can anyone tell us how to start, what we need to do? By simply looking at this function, what do you notice?
So for the radicals.
What do we notice when we look at this function? Or if I ask you, how did we create this function?
Just the f plus g.
It's f plus g. Very good. So this is function number 1 and this is function number 2 and they're added. Awesome. We noticed that, right? It's a quantity plus another quantity. This must be a function and this must be another function. Let's look at the first function. For the first function to exist, what do I have to write?
X minus 2.
Yes, for the first one I have to write x minus 2. What? Awesome. Good. So this is taken care of. Now let's look at the second one. For the second one to exist, what do I have to write? Very good. Has to be perfect. That's all I need. This will exist if this happens, and this will exist if this happens. So now let's find x for the first condition. How do I write it? Awesome. And for the second one? X. Very good. Now I will have to graph these two on the same real line. 0 in the middle, negative infinity to infinity. I don't care for units. I'm just showing what we are trying to do. When I graph the first one, where do I start? Where do I start? At 2, and where do I go? Very good, to the right. So this is this one. In order to show the other one, where do I start? Very good. I don't care for units. Here's negative 3. Which direction do I go? Also to the right, correct? I need both colors. Why do I need both colors? And I need the intersection because I want both pieces to exist at the same time. If I choose this interval, none of them will exist. I cannot evaluate the function. If I choose this interval, then only one of them is true, exists. Only the second one. So then what do I have to choose so they both exist at the same time? So here I cannot pick anything. Here only one of them is true. I want both of them to be true at the same time.
Can't you pick that x is equal to or greater than negative 3?
But if I pick a value here, look what happens. If I pick 0, 0 minus 2 is a negative number and I cannot take the square root from it. So I need both colors. Where do I see both colors? Exactly. That is the domain of this function, 2 to infinity. I want both to exist at the same time. They only overlap here. Here, in this area, I only have orange, whatever this color is. Sorry, pink. Here I have none. This is the only territory where both exist at the same time. Is that clear? Is that a yes? Okay. Next, Jesse, is this okay? Okay, so this is the domain of the function. Other questions from me, please? Anything else you... Yes, David, go ahead.
How would you do number 16?
From?
You know what? How about we do number 29? That's odd.
From?
Page, the exercise at 2.6.
Okay, still in 310.
3 and 310.
Okay, 29. Okay, so f of x, 2x plus 7, and the denominator is x cubed minus 5x squared, and then minus 4x plus 20. We're asked to determine the domain of this function. What do we do? What type of function is it? What could be the problem? Here, for example, the problem was potentially taking the square root from what? From a negative number, correct. So now this is a totally different function. How do we call this one? What type of function is it?
Rational.
Correct. It has a ratio of two polynomials. Awesome. What could go wrong with a rational function? It's the same thing. It's not the same thing with what could go wrong with a radical. Forgive me.
You don't want a 0 in the denominator.
Exactly. I don't want the denominator to be 0. So what do I write? So this is not the same type of function. This concept is gone, is not applicable here.
X is not equal to 0.
We are talking about the denominator. X is not the denominator. Right?
So we had the
X cubed minus
Yes,
x
indeed.
five.
I would have written x not equal 0 if the denominator was just plain x, but the denominator is not plain x. This entire thing cannot be 0. I cannot separate it. It's one thing together, right? Good, so then how do I solve this equation? Yes, I have to factor. How? How many terms are in there?
factor by grouping,
Perfect, because we have how many terms?
4 terms.
Indeed. 4 terms means factoring by grouping. Awesome. Good. From the first two. And I want you to use this method because your factor you could, I'm not saying you will, you could factor something from here and totally something else from the other two, and you will never get anywhere. So trust me, when I put this here, I specifically say, do not look. And I encourage you not to look. So, x squared, what is left in parentheses?
X minus 1.
Do not uncover, do not look at anything and tell me what will you have to have in parentheses.
X minus 5.
Yes, because if you don't, and if you don't copy the equal, or in this case not equal, I'm going to come back in a minute. If you do not copy the equal symbol and 0, you will not solve. You will change it into an expression, and you're not going to solve for anything. Only now I look. Let's look. I need 2 things. I need a sign and a factor.
Minus 4.
Yes, let's check. We cannot invent it or fabricate it. It has to be there, right? Is negative 4 times x this? Is negative 4 times negative 5 that? Good. So now I have 2 terms, and they have something in common. What will I pull out?
X squared.
Indeed, x minus 5 is the common factor. What is left in parentheses? And again, if I forget the equal symbol and 0, I mess up the whole thing.
X squared minus 4.
We have an agreement on this one. How do I factor x squared minus 4?
It's like X squared minus 4 plus minus 4.
We have an agreement on how to factor this. How do I factor? No, you cannot look at it. Just kidding. Just kidding.
A squared
X minus
Minus b squared.
X plus 4.
two B squared.
But 4 times, indeed. I should have asked from the very beginning, what is the degree of this polynomial? How many solutions do I have to come up with? Correct. Yes, Damon, go ahead.
Did you go back to the contract? That's what you did?
Yes, it's the third one from the contract.
Oh,
A
third
plus
one.
b times a minus b is a squared minus b squared. So now I need someone to give me 3 solutions. And of course, I'll go back and say not equal to, not equal, not equal, because this is in the denominator. Not because I wanted it not to be equal. It has to be. So x not equal 5. Very good, very good. Good. So these are the numbers or the x values that are not acceptable. But the question is not asking us that. I had to do it in order to answer what x can be. So how do I write in mathematical terms what x can be in the interval notation? So the main of function f is awesome, comma, awesome, union, very good, comma, awesome, union, yes, yes, union, yes, yes. So remember, every function, I shouldn't say every, but functions are different. And they have different conditions. And they have to fulfill different conditions. It depends on the function. Yes, Damon, go ahead.
Hey, all right, so I was writing your first thing down. Now, when you start doing a domain, you -2 union -2.
Yes, so from the
Okay,
entire real line, I have to exclude these numbers.
okay,
So the parentheses say I excluded -2.
gotcha.
Again, the parentheses say I excluded 2. And then the parentheses say I excluded 5. It's a fancy way of saying everything but -2, 2, and 5,
Okay,
using the interval notation.
But you just voted on your domain.
Yes, this is the domain.
Right, and then but you just excluded it down below. Because
I had to exclude those because these were making the denominator 0. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Good. Other questions for me? Anything else? Anything else? Okay, 2.8 has three different things that we deal with. Distance, formula, midpoint, formula, and the equation of a circle. Distance formula, midpoint formula, the equation of a circle. Okay, so let's look at 2 points on a coordinate system. I'm going to call this point A and I'm going to call this point B. I'm going to connect the 2 points with a line segment that I'm going to say has the length D, distance between A and B. Because my point A is the first one, I'm going to say that it has coordinates x1, y1. And I'm going to say that B has coordinates, what do you think?
X2.
Right, of course. So then I'm going to say that this distance is what? It's where A is and where its x is, right? So how much is this? X1, very good. So now this distance is
x2.
Very good. And now I want you to give me this distance.
x2 minus x1.
Very good. I will repeat on the y-axis. So how much is this? Very good. How much is this? Good. And of course I need this. Very good. y2 minus y. Now I'm going to form a right triangle. Here's the 90-degree angle. And you already told me what this length is, which is y2 minus y1. You already told me this length, which is x2 minus x1. And I would like you to apply the Pythagorean theorem in this triangle. And tell me what to write.
x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared equals b squared.
Very good. Leg squared plus leg squared equals the hypotenuse squared. Pythagorean theorem. Are we okay with this? Yes? Any questions? Is that okay? Is it good or not? Yes. Leg squared plus leg squared is equals hypotenuse squared. That's the Pythagorean theorem. So we are after this. What should I do to both sides to determine d? Take the square root. When I take the square root, I was told to write when I take the square root from both sides of an equation, I was told to write what? Plus or minus. I will not this time. Well, how come?
Distance can't be negative.
Very good. So this is x2 minus x1, everything squared, plus y2 minus y1, everything squared. This is the distance formula. Can I further simplify it? Can I write the square root of the first quantity plus the square root of the second quantity? I want to write the square root of this plus the square root of this. Am I allowed to or not? No. I'm not allowed to simplify the square root if it's a sum underneath, sum of terms, or a difference. Correct. No one can simplify this. This is done. This is the distance formula. Now, the midpoint is the point that bisects the segment in two equal parts. And it's denoted by uppercase M. So the midpoint we can show with triangles as well.
I'm sorry, you said the midpoint bisects what?
The segment into two equal parts. That's why it's called midpoint.
So is that the midpoint?
Yes, that's the midpoint right here in the middle between A and B.
So that's not the square root.
The distance is this.
Okay, that's the answer, right?
That's the formula for the distance. So now for the midpoint, we average the x values and we average the y values. The average of two numbers is x1 plus x2 over 2. And what will be the y coordinate of the midpoint?
y1 plus y2.
Very good. y1 plus y2 over 2. Now please give me two ordered pairs so we can find the distance and the midpoint and move on.
-3,
Very good. -3.
9,
Good.
0,
Yes.
-4.
Awesome. So with these ordered pairs, and no, the other class did not choose the same ordered pairs this time. We want to find two things. We want to find the midpoint, and we want to find the distance between them. Let's start with the midpoint because it's the easiest. Please add up these two. Add them up. Negative 3 divided by 2 is just negative 3 halves. Please add these two up.
That's 5.
Yes, divided by 2. So the midpoint is done. In order to determine the distance between those 2 points, I recommend the following steps. First, I write the distance formula. x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Next, I'm going to ask you this. Can you please tell me what type of number is this? What type of number is it? This number. Always.
A real number.
True. Furthermore, look at it.
It's always going to be a positive number.
Do we agree? Good. What about this number? It's a positive number because it's squared. No matter what you have inside, when you square, it's positive, right? What type of number is this?
Also positive.
Good. And when I add two positive numbers, what do I get? So I will never see the square root of negative 47, correct? Right? I just want to make sure because I've seen it. So now I label my points. x1, y1, x2, y2.
Excuse me.
Yes.
If it's negative and you have to remove the negative and turn it to letter I.
Not for the distance. That's why that's why I wanted to go over that. One more time. What type of number is this? Is it always positive? Okay.
Negative 3 squared is going to give you a positive
Oh,
number.
yes. Oh,
Right?
yes.
What type of number is this?
The same.
So when I add two positives,
Positive.
right, will the distance ever be the square root of negative 5?
No.
That's all I wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Good. So now, x2, 0. I just copy those numbers underneath. x1, negative 3. y2, negative 4. y1, 9. I didn't do anything. I didn't replace them. I just wrote them under where they belong. That's all I did. So now, let's do this together, please, because I want to avoid that thing with a negative 47 that I saw. Okay, how much is 0 minus negative 3?
Negative
0 minus negative 3. 3. 3 squared.
3.
Awesome. Plus negative 4 minus 9.
Negative 13.
Negative 13 squared.
169.
Negative or positive? Thank you. So then d equals the square root of 178. Not a negative number, ever. Is that clear? If I'm asked to approximate, I will approximate. I will put in the graphing calculator. I will take the square root of 178, and I get 13.34. If I'm asked, especially in my math lab, if I'm asked the exact, then I will have to look at 178 and say, okay, it's an even number. I'll divide it by 2. 17 divided by 2, 8. And 18 divided by 2 is 9. I can't do anything. I cannot continue. 89 is a prime number. So this is the exact, and this is the approximated distance between those 2 points. Any questions? Any questions?
Let's do another one.
Okay. Let's do another one, but quickly because I really have to get to chapter 3.
Okay.
I'm ready. Any points you want to make up?
2 and 4, 3 and 6.
Let's say negative 6. Good. Okay, perfect. So we want the midpoint. Please add these up.
5.
So it's 5 halves. Please add these up.
That's 2.
Negative 2 divided by 2.
1. Negative 1.
That's it. Midpoint is done. Now we want to determine the distance. Is this okay?
So, 4 and 6, oh, no.
Is that okay?
Okay.
Perfect. So for the distance between the 2 points, I recommend write the formula, which is x2 minus x1, everything squared, plus y2 minus y1, everything squared. Label the points, x1, y1, x2, y2. Slowly, carefully write them underneath. So I write x2 as 3, x1 as 2, y2 as negative 6, y1 as 4. We're not going to get negative numbers, correct? Good, perfect. So d equals the square root. How much is 3 minus 2?
1.
How much is 1 squared?
1.
Plus negative 6 minus 4. Negative 10 squared. Very good. So then the distance is the square root of 101. And we cannot further simplify that. Any questions? Is this okay? Do we understand how we find the distance and the midpoint? Yes? Is it a yes? Okay, perfect. Now let's take a look at this. And I know it's not a circle, but please say that it is. Make me happy. It's not a perfect circle, of course. Okay, so a circle has a center, correct? The notation for the center of the circle is h, comma k. What does this mean? What is h? The x coordinate. What is k? The y coordinate. We just like these two letters. So the center is I'm sorry, the point is c, h, comma k. Of course, this is what?
Radius.
Very good. And it's all over. All points on the circle are exactly r units away, r distance away from the center, correct? I'm going to say that this is a point that verifies the equation, unknown, x comma y. And here's my claim. My claim is that the distance AC is the same with the radius. Would you accept? Is the distance between the center and any point on the circle the same with the length of the radius? Perfect. So I'm going to keep r on this side, and I would like you to give me this using this point and this point based on what we just discussed a minute ago. What will you tell me to write on this side? Say it again.
Do the same formula.
Yes, I'm just ready. Anyone to dictate it and I'll put it in.
Square root.
Very good. Awesome. X minus h to the awesome plus. That's it. This is the equation of the circle. However, we really don't like it with a radical in it. It's good. It's good, but we really don't like it with a radical in it. So what do I do to remove the radical? Careful, the opposite. Yes, yes, of course. So can anyone dictate what to write? And this is the equation of a circle. This is it. I'm ready. That's it. This is the equation of a circle. Good. There are 3 questions here, 3 different types. One is way more difficult than the first 2. So let's start with the 2 easy ones. Ready? So type 1. We are given the center, invent the center for me, and the radius. Where would you like the circle to have the center? Give me any ordered pair you can think of.
3, -1.
Awesome. And give me a radius.
4.
Perfect. So the question is asking us, given the center of the circle and given the radius, write the equation. Find the equation of the circle with the center and the radius. And I'm ready when you are. So what is this? What is 3? Yes?
Please, my dot C, what does it represent? The
Center.
C.
Center.
Center. Right here. So what does 3 represent for the center? Correct. Or the H. Right? Good. What does -1 represent for the center? Perfect. So I'm ready when you are.
X,
Yes.
X minus 3
Awesome.
squared
Yes.
plus Y
Yes.
-1 squared plus 1
Is that clear why?
because it's negative.
Exactly. Equals,
4 squared.
which is,
16.
that's it. This is the equation of the circle with the center that you made up for me and the radius 4. I would like to graph this. What do I start with? What do you think I start with? Exactly, the center. Awesome. So 3 comma -1, 1, 2, 3, -1 is right here. So please follow me for a second. I have the center of the circle. I know it has a radius of 4. I will create 4 points. This point 4 units away towards east. This point 4 units north. This point 4 units south. And this point 4 units east. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I connect them. This is the equation of the circle with the center that you gave me 3 comma -1 with a radius of 4. Is this okay? Yes, David?
Okay, so the center of the circle is 3 -1. You went over 3 spots, went down 1.
Yes, 4, 4, 4, 4, because the radius is 4.
4. Gotcha.
Good? Question number 2. Type number 2. Given the equation of this circle, find the center and find the radius. We are given the equation of a circle. We are asked now, we may be even asked to graph, but right now we are asked find the center and find the radius. Very good. That's it. Any questions? Any questions here? And we can graph it again. We will plot the center, and then you will go with 4 points. How far away from the center? 3 units away. And then you will connect the points. Is that clear? Okay, the last type. Here, before we move on to chapter 3. Yes, please.
When you went to the X, I was still right. X plus 4. So when you get center, So when you got center is -4, 2, so it'd be where you want to the left 4 places.
No, it's for the same reason. Remember you said -1, and when you plugged it in, it's y minus -1. So that's why here this is -1. So once I have x plus 4, the x coordinate is -4. You could say that it's a shift to the left of 4. You could, because actually it is a shifted conic section, but we don't know that in this class. So you're right. You could say that, and that's why this is. See, for this one, we haven't discussed what's happening here because it's a y coordinate, but it's the same idea. It goes up. Good question. Thank you. Okay, so the third one. I can make one up on the spot for the third type, so I have to ask you to choose a problem, or I will choose a problem on page 332 from 53 to 64. 53 through 64. I can choose the first one and you can choose the second one if you want. 56. In 56 we have x squared plus y squared minus 4x minus 12y minus 9 equals 0. And the question says this. If this is the equation of a circle, if, find the center and the radius. Now, how will I know whether this is the equation of a circle? I will know it's the equation of the circle if I can manipulate this somehow and get what? Right, that's exactly it. So if, I don't know how yet, we'll discuss in a minute, but if I can rearrange this like this, then I know it's a circle. Exactly, but a particular type of factoring. So if I can rearrange this like this, then I will identify h and k, which are the coordinates of the center, and I will identify the radius. Right. So what should I do? What should I do to this equation to get that? But before you answer, I'm going to ask you another question. What is this really? It's a sum of what? Two completed squares. That's what it is. It's a completed square in x, of course, in some number. It's a completed square in y, and of course, some number. So when I look at all this, I say to myself, oh, if I could make something happen here for x, and later on make something happen for y, then I'm in business. So what is this method called again? It's the one that I said from the 4 methods of solving quadratic equations. I said this one is not useful. It is useful for something else later. That's it. That's why I need the completed square, not for solving quadratic equations. Because I can solve quadratic equations by completing the square. I have to use the square root after I do all the work of completing the square, right? So x squared minus 4x, what does it need to be added to both sides? Middle coefficient divided by 2, -2. Then what do I do with -2? Square, what do I get? That's what I need. So now this piece, and this piece, and this piece will give us what exactly?
X squared minus.
No, not x squared. Our contract, that was the first thing we did for this, because I didn't want to go back again. So x minus 2 squared is x squared minus 4x plus 4. Correct? Awesome. Now plus. Look at y and say, I know you have to add, and I'm adding it. Middle coefficient. Can anyone identify the middle coefficient?
-12.
-12 divided by 2.
6.
-6. -6 squared. So now this and this and this are here. Where? That's it, squared. Now let's collect what we have not used yet. I have not used this, I have not used this, and I have not used this. Everything else was accounted for or is accounted for. So I write the equal symbol, and please tell me what to write on the other side. Yes, indeed, because it's 40 plus 9 is 49. Awesome. So is this a circle or not? It is a circle, because we're able to complete the square and form the equation of the circle. And can anyone give us the center? And the radius?
7.
That's it. Indeed, 2 comma 6 and the radius of 7. Very good, well done. This is what we studied. This is why we studied complete the square.